A new ad brutally and ruthlessly mocks Donald Trump in perfect fashion for his long record of losing. Well, I have another banger for you from the Republican Accountability Project. This is just fun, lift our spirits. It's an attack ad that in truly hilarious fashion mocks Donald Trump over him being the quote unquote biggest loser, which based on the national electoral results as of recently is a very real phenomenon. Now, what I want to do is first watch this video, which highlights his electoral losing streak. Then we'll look at a second video that emphasizes his losing record on a policy, specifically when you compare it to that of Joe Biden's. Here's this from the Republican Accountability Project.
When Donald Trump ran for president, he promised there would be so much winning.
Please, it's too much winning.
But there was no winning. In fact, he's been the biggest loser.
Congratulations, you are the biggest loser.
In 2018, Trump caused Republicans to lose the House.
Donald Trump was the biggest loser of the night.
Trump was the biggest loser last night. I know he hates hearing that.
Trump lost the presidency in 2020.
Donald Trump's the loser.
This is a resounding loss for him.
In 2022, Trump's hand-picked candidates were defeated in key races across the country.
The biggest loser tonight is Donald Trump.
This man is a loser.
He's the biggest loser in American politics.
And this year, the GOP took losses in Ohio, Virginia, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania.
The big losers are going to be Donald Trump.
Donald Trump was the big loser.
If the GOP wants to start winning elections again, they must move on from Donald Trump, who is, as we all know, say it with me, the biggest loser.
Now, I think part of the reason why that's so funny is it gets at the core of Trump's insecurities. Trump hates nothing more than being called a loser or weak because his entire image is sold on the idea that he's a winner. And actually, before getting to the second video I mentioned that we'll watch, here's Pod Save America making this point about how to mock Trump.
I do think that reminding everyone what a clown Donald Trump is actually effective. I think that authoritarian leaders, fascists throughout history, they do not like to be made fun of. They do not like to be mocked. Donald Trump does not like to be mocked. And I think we need to get back to, he is an extremely scary demagogue, right? That we've said a million times. You got to take him seriously and literally. We've all seen it in action for 4 years. Guy tried
Did you just do seriously and literally?
Seriously and literally, yeah. We all talked about that. He's, he tried to overturn the election, incited an insurrection, all of that for sure. Second term would be terrifying. But he's a clown.
And it's so right. We, of course, can't downplay the danger that Trump poses to democracy and how serious that is. His authoritarian impulses and ambitions are very real, serious, and dangerous. And also, yes, mocking his losing streak, mocking his brain glitches, whatever it might be. That's what gets under his skin and what could kind of shake his supporters a little bit, because so much of their love for him and this cult of personality around him is premised on the idea that he's a strong man. He's a leader who can slap around other world leaders and crush the left in America. And when you point out that actually those branding things are not at all aligned with who he really is and his actual record, I think that's really effective. But of course, it's always important to get the conversation back to policy as well. And this video that was put out a while ago by the Biden campaign but reposted recently compares on one subject the promises made by Trump to the actual accomplishments of Joe Biden.
Infrastructure. Nobody can do that like me. The infrastructure is very easy. And infrastructure will get that done easily. We are going to put up one of the big and great infrastructure bills of all time. We call it Infrastructure Week.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Bravo.
So Trump promised and promised and promised to get an infrastructure bill passed that would be the most beautiful, strongest, and amazing infrastructure bill you've ever seen. Then it never actually happened. Whereas Biden, in an incredibly divided time, actually got a bipartisan infrastructure bill signed into law, a historic investment in infrastructure that will actually materially benefit people's lives. We're talking about, yes, roads and bridges, but also addressing the fact that millions of Americans don't have access to clean and reliable drinking water, investing in passenger rail, broadband, and so many different things. Incredible stuff. Here's a post on X from Biden celebrating the 2-year anniversary of the law that was yesterday. He wrote, "Today marks 2 years since I signed the bipartisan infrastructure law. It's a once-in-a-generation investment in our roads, bridges, transportation, clean water systems, high-speed internet access, and it's creating good-paying union jobs you can raise a family on." And that's what politics should be about, a conversation about policy. But MAGA, unfortunately, so often forces it to be about something very different. And we rightfully have to talk about the stakes in this upcoming election being the health and stability of our democracy. So that has to be the focus. But if we could get past this era of MAGA, we could get back to more time being spent on things like this, criticizing leaders when they fail to follow through on campaign promises, giving leaders credit when they follow through on those promises with the good things, and debating out what the best solutions to problems that we're facing are. Can you even imagine a fantasy world I'm living in? First, we have to convince, 40% of the country that elections are being stolen. And no, it's not good to want Trump undemocratically installed as president despite losing an election. By the way, you can even go look at a map that the White House put together of all the different infrastructure projects I'll put up on screen. You can click on individual projects in any given state and see some specs on what's going on there, which is very interesting. And by the way, do me a favor, would you? And just stick around for this part of the discussion. I get it. We did the fun Trump ad, the mocking of him, all that's great. But this stuff matters too. So I encourage you to watch the more policy-oriented conversations as well. And on that note, here's Pete Buttigieg giving an update on the state of the rollout of the infrastructure law.
So far, there are 37,000 infrastructure projects and counting across the nation benefiting from this legislation. Landmark projects like the Hudson River Tunnel between New York and New Jersey, or the Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky and Ohio. Airport renovations from Alaska all the way to Key West, Florida. Supply chain advances from Tell City, Indiana to Fernley, Nevada. Some of these projects might not get national news, but to the people counting on them as they get to work every single day, these projects matter enormously. And Americans across the country are stepping up to make this a reality. This work is creating hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs at the local level. We have come a long way, but most of our work is still ahead of us. The work we're doing right now will ensure that the America we know, the America we love, will be even better for future generations. And for President Biden and for this whole administration, it starts with delivering on the very basic things that make people's everyday life possible. And the great news is, we're just getting started.
I've been talking a lot on the bonus show about this next point. You can get access to the bonus show at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. But I really think the media has failed in many ways in their coverage of the Biden administration. I've said this many times now, but just like how as progressive commentators or just any commentator, we have to be honest when Democrats fail, or just people in power in general fail, we also have to be honest and tell it like it is when they get something right. And that's what I'm seeing too much of an absence of across a lot of the media. I think people are scared to come off as biased, which is fine. Not wanting to be biased is good, but that causes people to avoid going through accurately and honestly the achievements of the Biden administration and Democrats. So then you have this situation where on one side of the media spectrum, you have right-wing media pretending like Biden's a criminal, he's destroying the country. And on the other side, sort of this hesitance to just in a purely fact-based manner, repeatedly discuss some pretty notable achievements. And that leads to actually an inaccurate perspective on the part of Americans. And that's why I go through the list that I'm going to go through again here so often, so that at least my audience is armed with the facts about Biden's record. Because the infrastructure law is just one of the many massive achievements under Biden and the Democrats in the last few years. It really can be said, despite the nonstop right-wing messaging to the contrary, that on policy, Biden has been the most effective president in decades. Let's go through it again, just some of it. The largest investment in infrastructure since Eisenhower's highway program. The Inflation Reduction Act, which in that we see the largest investment in green energy in American history, making sure that we're a leader when it comes to that transition so that more jobs can be made in America and industries can thrive in that sector in America over the next decades, not to mention in favor of the health of our planet, plus Medicare, Also in the Inflation Reduction Act, being able to negotiate drug prices for seniors, finally lowering those costs for seniors and capping the cost of insulin at $35 out of pocket per month. You have things like the PACT Act, expanding veterans healthcare coverage, the CHIPS and Science Act, investing in American manufacturing. Of course, Biden ended America's longest war, something multiple presidents before him just couldn't summon the will to do because they knew it would be messy like it was. And they knew it would hurt whoever was the president at the time politically, but Biden got it done. A bunch of student debt relief, an incredible vaccine rollout that helped get things back to normal post the peak of the pandemic, the American Rescue Plan also allowing for that recovery to happen. And not to mention Biden's NLRB, what it's done for labor has been incredible. And the list just goes on and on. Those things matter. It matters that we got that instead of whatever the heck Trump would have done. And since I've done it multiple times in the last couple of weeks, I'm not going to go through the reasons certain Democratic policies created a better economic situation than we would have otherwise experienced, but there is a solid record there as well. And I previously covered the polling that shows people disapproving way more of Biden before you walk through the specifics of his policy record. Then when you do, his approval swings in a positive direction. So clearly there is a media failure if people aren't even hearing about the good side of the column. Fine to talk about the bad. I've said before, we didn't get things like paid family leave, universal pre-K, etc. And yes, there are concerns about Biden's age, but ignoring the good is just as dishonest as ignoring the bad. So I say all of that because when we're talking about 2024, remember that there is something to vote for, not just against. Before you go, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasley.com/membership. That gives you access to the daily bonus show Monday through Friday. Very fun, very exciting. Plus follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, X at Luke P. Beasley. Sign up for the Beasley Brief, the morning newsletter, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'll talk to you all tomorrow.